episode of Talk and Takes. I'm your host, Ashley, and with me is
Natasha.
Today, we're going to be talking about gender inequality, and we have with us two lovely guests, Miss Augustina Augustine, the face of the coaches, a host, and an advocate for women empowerment and leadership. Welcome.
Thank you.
We also have Mr. Samuel Uche, a leading Nigerian girl-child advocate, a social activist, and a member of Amnesty International. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much.
We'll get into the conversation in a minute. We'll be right back.
Hey there! Are you looking to record your videos, do your voiceovers, and take your professional pictures? Look no further. With our state-of-the-art newsroom, photography, kitchen for our food content creators, and exclusive children's studio, we certainly can deliver the best studio experience. Our carefully designed studio space can bring your diverse creative content ideas to life. We aim to consistently serve value to our customers far and wide. Come, let Thav Media give life to your dreams. Thav Media, a slice of infotainment.
Welcome back. So, gender inequality basically is a social phenomenon where women and men are not treated equally, so to speak. Would you say that that concept is true, and why?
Okay, you've actually said it right. It's a social phenomenon where both genders are not treated equally. But then the truth is it also affects non-binary people, that's to say the transgender. So long as they are qualified as humans, they are also affected by this cause. Now let's come from the angle of gender. Now gender is a social constructional or cultural construction that is very ambiguous to define. In terms of how you go down to concern about the men, the women, how it is being categorized. Each of these things and the states makes it too big, to talk about. If you begin to talk about gender, there are a lot of things, and then you come down to the inequality. And before we proceed to talking about inequality, it is right that you understand the differences between equity and equality. I don't know if he has something to say.
Okay, so thank you so much for the question. So here's the thing. I would like to define this gender inequality from my own perspective, my own experience from the field. So gender inequality to me is even far more beyond the social construct, because these things have been there from the very beginning. It's as old as the human race itself, the human civilization. So I see gender inequality as something beyond the social construct, where people tend to define access and inaccess to social amenities, the basic human right, based on a person's gender, whether the person is a woman or not beyond, not about if the person is human. Because if you define a person's access to social amenities and other things based on being human, you don't get to take the person's gender into consideration. So I want to take someone for a job hire, I'm asking if she's a woman or not. And I strongly believe that all of this stem from our definitions of what gender is in the first place. So I want to define who a woman is. The big question is the word woman, is it absolute like truth? Is it very universal? What is a woman in Africa? What is a woman in the Wild Wild West? Who is a woman? What defines a man? So when we have this understanding about all of this, we can come to understand gender inequality properly. And she said something about the non-binary people. That's something that has also come in 21st century. Before, we were looking at gender inequality from the angle of male or female. We have people who don't conform to a certain gender. How do we bring them into the picture as well?
Okay, I like that she briefly talked about inequality and inequity. So I would like you to please briefly explain the difference between the two.
All right, so gender equity is the fairness of treatment accorded to both individuals, whether as a man or a woman. And gender equality, on the other hand, is the equal opportunities, equal rights, equal responsibilities given to both genders, where we're able to access things, we're able to communicate, we're able to dominate places because of who we are, because of our responsibilities, because we're fit and not because of our gender, but we're not restricted to doing certain things. I like the fact that it's a mixed conversation. We have a male here. You are a woman and she's also a woman, and she has the right to say, since we're talking about gender inequality and I'm a woman, let's favor and bring a woman to speak on our behalf. behalf. But then we have a male also speaking on the same context. So that is it, gender equality. And to, eradicate or to close the gender gap, it is very important that we have both gender fighting towards this common goal.
Interesting. But please, can you tell us, Mr. Samuel, why do you think there's gender inequality? I mean, like you said, it's been there since the human race.
Yes.
And we have organizations and individuals that have been trying to fight the inequality, educate people, reorientate people. But why do you think that till today we still have gender inequality?
Okay, that's a very great question. So while I was ruminating about this gender inequality, two things quickly dropped into my mind. Is the factor of representation. How does people represent gender in our society? And it dawned on me that so long that we have variances, differences in religion, differences in the strata or spheres of the human socio-cultural norms, there is bound to be gender inequality. For example, if you try to allude a little bit to the scriptures, when God wanted to make the woman, he called her a helpmeet. So a lot of people can pick up that particular word, helpmeet, and try to, in a very subjective manner, dichotomize it. What I mean is that give it a different kind of expression based on their own culture, their own times. So a woman is a helpmeet. She is nothing else. She doesn't have a sense of belonging, no faculty of reasoning. She doesn't have a future per se, if not to be a helpmeet or a supportive person to the man. We talk about the place of, that's for religion. You can come into places like other religion, because we're on air, I'm not man to mention it, where there is a construct like Buddha. I served in the north for close to 1 year. And all through those times, I never saw a married woman eating in public with a husband. Because why? There's this law they have called bar shiga, meaning you can't enter a man's house because his wife is his property. That's from the angle of religion. We have socio-cultural norms. If you come into the Igbo climb, the woman cannot sell property. She can't be in some certain meetings. Even if she's there, she can't break the kola nut because she's a woman. Not because she's human, because she's a woman. She can't sell landed properties. There's some things a woman can't do. We see things like traditions. When a man dies, the woman is not allowed to remarry because it's culture. And we also look at differences in continent. Over there in the Wild Wild West, a woman is very independent. She can pursue her finances. She has her own dreams, but it's not working here. So I think that gender inequality emanated or originated from the fact that we have differences in perspective. And the more people try to, how will I put this? The more people try to tell this story, they add a lot of things, their excesses added to them. And these things are already passed down to the kid. A father tells the son that you don't have anything to do with women, if not for procreation and companionship. If we solve the root problem of, number one, perspective, we also solve the root problem that starts from the very family, because someone must tutor the boy child to see that a girl is equal with me. And I also think, too, that this particular statement of that a woman is a weaker vessel is also one of the things that is also pushing this. So women feel they are highly disadvantaged. So companies like Google will come up with tech solutions just for women. So in that fact that they want to solve a gender inequality problem, they also push it. They try to elongate gender inequality because the women will feel themselves that I'm a weaker vessel. So my weakness is supposed to be a strength for me. But if we were going to the labor market and the woman is hustling like the man, like Okonjiwala, people just want to see value. It's not gender tied. Intellectual witticism, which is serendipity, all of those things are not bound by gender. It's something that has to come from your ability to utilize your mind.
Thank you very much for that take. Very astute, though. I want to ask, based on all we've been saying, there seems to be a bias on the topic. Why? Because when we talk about gender inequality, mostly the gender mostly conversing for this are women. I want to ask you specifically, as a man, have you been treated quite unequally based on your peculiarities as a man? And what instances?
Okay.
I'd like you to come from that angle.
Oh, that's a lot. So let me share a story. I think one time I was traveling to Uyo for a meeting. So I discovered that the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency, they normally partner with the other paramilitary infrastructures like the army and the police, and they stand on the road to look out for people who peddle drugs. So I discovered that anytime they ask questions in a vehicle, they will stop a vehicle, and the people, they always pinpoint at the men. So they will ask you, where are you? Who are you? What's your name? Where are you coming from? what's your locality? They ask a lot of questions that I
And
don't
even
know.
search only the male.
That's that kind of thing. And they always try to look at you from your physique per se. Look at your physiology. Like if I'm wearing a dread, I'm a bad boy. And if you look at the NSAS protests that happened in 2020, you see that majorly people who the police laid hands on were males. In as much as we know that women are also victims of war. But a man is taught in our society to be not vulnerable. I used to tell people that it's our vulnerability that breeds compassion. No man can do anything worthwhile in our society without, first of all, understanding the place of vulnerability. That's what makes us human, is the thin thread of our humanity. So the man is taught to be what we call toxic masculinity. He is not taught to be vulnerable for once. We know this might sound quite absurd. 1 out of 5 males you might meet on the street may have been sexually molested. 1 out of 5 males. And that's why there is a replication. There is the place of a geometric progression of sexual abuse. So in terms of police brutality, the male child is a victim. In terms of not being able to express their emotions as human beings, they are also genderly marginalized.
I love that you've had a personal experience. So that means that men are also unequally treated.
Exactly.
But before I go into my next question, please do stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey there! Are you looking to record your videos, do your voiceovers and take your professional pictures? Look no further. With our state-of-the-art newsroom, photography, kitchen for our food content creators and exclusive children's studio, we certainly can deliver the best studio experience. Our carefully designed studio space can bring your diverse creative content ideas to life. We aim to consistently serve value to our customers far and wide. Come, let Thav Media give life to your dreams. Thav Media, a slice of infotainment.
Welcome back, Natasha.
Thank you very much. You sir, you mentioned your own peculiar experience based off of your gender as male. I want to ask briefly, should there be roles specific to each gender?
All right, so thank you so much. The thing is, we need to first of all come from the understanding that no particular gender is more superior than the other one. And the way these genders were designed is to complement themselves. You understand? Like I would always say, no matter how well-trained a man is, he can never fully function in the capacity of a mother. That's because of biological roles, biological or anatomical roles per se. And I was also ruminating on the fact that there are some also job opportunities that it's not because the females are not valuable enough, but because of the question of biology. The man has muscle enough to lift things, for example, construction companies. So if you bring a woman into that capacity, she might function mentally. She can bring her wit to the job, but because of the differences in her anatomy per se, it will be impossible for her to function properly. So the thing is, there are roles definitely that are very peculiar to all of this. I've also seen in families where the father leaves very early. You will see that the father figure, will be very absent in the life of their sons per se, even in the daughters, and how she relate with men much later in her life. So those roles are very peculiar to each gender.
Are you of the same opinion?
I think I also, relate with it. Yes, like you said, there are certain opportunities or roles that are designated for a certain gender. So, like he mentioned, as a mother, you know that this is for a woman, and you can't bring, even when you see the parenting upbringing, especially when, let's say, a man is not there and the woman tries to carry all of those responsibilities, you see that there's still something missing, either in the lives of the children or even on herself. So these roles should be assigned to certain people, but they should not just come in to say, because these roles are here for certain people, then it makes these other persons, especially women, not fit enough to be here, and then categorize them to be weak or vulnerable for certain roles.
Okay. We can all say, or we can all agree that when it comes to fighting, the inequality in genders, is mostly done by women, right? Why do you think there are more men against the whole movement of gender inequality?
Like you rightly stated, it started from the human race. and from colonization as well, especially here in Africa, where we've been made to think. You know, as humans, we're a product of mindsets and environment, and how what we're made to believe is what we're told or what we see. And that's why we're groomed like that and we grow up. A woman who is empowered, I'd always say, is someone who would, you know, when you educate that woman, she lives with that knowledge and she passes it on to her children. She raises them in that same, you know, lifestyle, and they grow up to also empower and raise their children, and that cycle continues. Now, when we've seen that the gender gap is something that has been created, and daily, you know, it's widens daily. It's just that now we have women who has understood these roles and has seen the need to close this gap and working. And as women, when we're a united force, working together with one mindset and for a common goal, we can do it. We can break boundaries, we can break those biases. So these things have persisted, no matter how we've tried to, you know, women putting in effort to close those goals or this gap, but they've been there because they have taught women to just being wives, to just being brides. They've been groomed in that way. And then the men have been given the opportunities to use their voices to fit in certain places, like the political roles, leadership. And that is how it has been that our mothers and our grandmothers, who has been there before us, has felt like that was the rightful way to live. And so whenever I'm raising my child, especially as a female, I have to bring her up in that upbringing to say, your role is just to be a woman. So you have to learn the kitchen duties. You make sure that you are someone who knows how to cook properly. I mean, I'm grateful that I'm in an era where women have understood that they're fearless, and to close that gender gap, we all need to be active. Although World Economic Forum holds that it's going to take another century to fully attain gender equality, which we hope for every one of us to have equal rights to be able to do what we want to do. But we're never going to stop, because enough is never enough.
Yeah, I want to bring it down to the workplace. You see a company would prefer to hire a lady as a receptionist. So the first person you see when you walk into an office is a lady, because of the notion that women are more welcoming. You see where companies would rather hire female marketers, because they believe it's easier for a lady to convince someone about a product or their service. What do you have to say about that?
Now, that is based on your value and based on what you can offer. I think some companies have seen that this woman has more potential to do in these places, and they fit in. And where she fits in, you don't deprive her of that. If a man, you go to, you know, hotels where we have receptionists, you go to business places too, and some men are also receptionists there. So they check you based on your level of how you welcome those people and how you relate with them. If you're someone who cannot do it, sometimes it's not even based on the woman. I don't know if you also agreeing with this, but sometimes it's not just on the woman. It's also on the man, because some of them feel like, I can't do this role because it looks like something that is based on a particular gender where women can do this more. And you see them themselves, they're also creating this inequality, and then make it feel like it's the women that are doing these things, or the organizations that are also giving these roles to certain women.
Do you agree with her?
Yeah, in a way. You know, in addition to the fact that women are welcoming, you know, there's this thing, I would want to use the word attraction per se. If I walk into a hotel and the person at the front desk is a man, and it's, number one, it's a huge turn off for some person. You need to see a very good looking face in that place. So it's not about inequality, but it's the reality. What it does is that companies use this as a marketing strategy to bring in the more men into the place. Because if you check, people who check into hotels are more of men than women. Of course, it also boils down to inequality, because if you see a woman who is constantly checking into a hotel, you either dub her a prostitute or something. Maybe you're this classy runs girls, you know. So, but companies have understood this as a marketing strategy. It's part of the human psychology that a man can yield more to a woman and a woman to the man. So banks use women as marketers, because beyond just having an ability to convince is the feminine power. So a woman can talk to you, and you're not doing it just because she's a marketer, but because she's a woman. And check banks, they always select fine girls. I'm not saying the word fine there being objective per se. So it's not because she's not valuable entirely. She is. I've seen banks who go on marketing experiences, and even the executives follow them. Those women who are oga per se will also follow them into market to go meet fellow ogas as well. So, but if you look at some of this in a way, if you don't get to balance it, you will see bits and pieces or shreds of gender inequality laced in all of this. You understand? So if you can walk into some companies, some bosses will tell you that the receptionist is reserved for a woman. The big question is why? If we answer the question of why, we will now know if it's gender inequality or not. The reason why I'm kind of reserving a receptionist spot for a woman, is it because the woman can do the job better, or because I feel it's a lesser gender per se? It's a question of why.
Thank you very much. There seems to be a whole lot of campaign for the girl child education, women empowerment, girl something, and less of the male. There seems to be an imbalance there.
Exactly.
Why do you think it is so? Isn't the male child also important to educate? Is it only about the girl child?
The male child is also important. But now the thing is, in a society that has been perceived to be patriarchal or patriarchy, where it's practiced, we see that they're more favored in a certain way. Now, we have 1 in 10 boys in school attending education and training. And if we find women or girls in this position, we have 1 in 5 of girls in schools or in training grounds or even in educational levels, sometimes in the workplaces. We're not going to say gender inequality is on one gender. It affects both individuals, both the man, the females. It affects everybody, even the non-binary people. But now the thing is, women are on the receiving end of these issues more, because we see that it's been dominated more. Places like this have been dominated more by men. But women now have been made to feel like you are the lower part here. So we're trying to uplift these women, to change the narratives that has persevered over time, to tell them that these things were created by men and can be, changed. There's a room to change these things. That's why we're pushing. If we keep on putting it around ourselves, we're talking about it because we're educated and we have the privilege to. But then if you go to the rural areas where we have women who do not understand the need, when you present an opportunity like this, they'll tell you, I don't think I can be a part of it. In one of my seminars where I held in a school, talking to young girls about female leadership, I asked the question if they knew that we as women also have rights to being leaders. I had a very big answer of no. That's on a scale of 1 to 10, about 9 or 8% of those girls. That's to say we have a lot to do. And not just on the role of leadership, other things too, to tell them that they have rights to education. And that's why we're campaigning more to educate these things, to bring in change. Here in Nigeria, in the northern part, we have more restriction on women, where they're only groomed to be wives. Education, I had a speaker who said education is a waste of thing to the female gender. And a woman who's educated has a high level of self-esteem to freely talk to people, to relate, and other opportunities as well. And she's also empowered and in turn empower other people.
Thank you so much for what you said. Now, we've talked so much about women and men, right? But we forget that there are some others, non-binary, transgender, and all of that. Recently, we've had issues where a man that transformed into a lady, so to speak, is in the sports team with other ladies and they share the same bathroom, right? So in accepting gender equality and equity, so to speak, we should be able to accept these people for who they are and what they are. Here in Nigeria, we have so much bias towards that. We're not all inclusive. What do you have to say about that?
Now, that is a thing of the culture where the person falls in. Now, someone who's here in Nigeria knows that there are no rules regarding those things. So you have to. And it is what you stand for. You know where you are. And when you go out there, you know where it is practiced. Just like the saying, when you're in Romance, you act like a Rome. So you don't come here to... these are things that just took place in the 21st century where people are beginning to bring in certain norms. And even as these things are also going on, technology has also brought a lot of biases on women, despite the fact that we have these other... challenges on women too. But then we also have to talk about these people. In a place where it's not accepted, then you behave yourself. Not just the people who are transforming to the opposite gender, people who also fall in line of lesbianism and all of those things where it's not accepted. If you feel the need to fall into this place, then you probably start up your own campaign.
What can the government do to bring about a more inclusive society? Because we remember recently they almost arrested, there was almost a warrant of arrest for Bobrisky and James Brown. What can we do to be more progressive in our society where it's all inclusive of every kind of gender?
Well, trans rights are...
Let him just quickly answer, please.
Okay. First of all, I always like to solve problems from the very root perspectives. So why are we not accepting people who decided that they don't want birth to define their gender? How? Why is it that there is a 14-year jail term for someone who decides to say, you know what, I don't want to wear trousers again as a guy, I just want to wear skirts and go. So the thing is that we need to start from our redefinitions again. Of course, those of them at the higher echelon of government, I mean, the National Assembly, those are the executive arm of the government, should be able to look at this again. And I think the reason why somehow this might be very difficult in Nigeria is, you know, she said culture, it's beyond culture as well. Mbiti used to say that the average African man is notoriously religious. So, you see, my gender is influenced by my belief system. I have to say this. You know, what I hold truth affects my belief. What I hold as belief affects my actions, and my actions shape my character. So what do we hold as truth with respect to gender? And remember, who said that youth is universal? I mean, truth is both universal and absolute. So it means if I go to the north, the south, pole, the equator, anywhere in the world, truth is supposed to be very absolute, and it's universal. So what does the National Assembly out there hold true as with respect to gender? You know, do I have to define a person's gender from birth, or do I give the person the liberty to do it him or herself? So if we want these things to come to the point where there is an all-inclusivity, we must redefine religion, redefine culture, and redefine the laws of the land.
Thank you so much for coming here. Very good points. Absolutely. Thank you. Ashley, we've had such amazing episodes for this particular season.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed all our guests, all the topics we've had.
Yeah.
I'd like to say my best, but I'll leave it for later. Please, thank you so much for following us and watching all of these episodes. And I know that it has been amazing to you. Please don't forget to comment. Don't forget to give us your feedback. We want to know really, really what you think about it all. So you really want to stay tuned for season 2 that will be coming up on your screens real soon. You want to stay subscribed, following us on all social media platforms, just as it's going across your screen right now. And thank you so much for staying tuned with us as well for season 1. This is us saying bye for now.